It's 5:30 PM on a Tuesday, you've just spent 8 hours staring at a glowing rectangle, you've answered 40 emails that could have been a single meeting, navigated office politics, fixed other people's mistakes, and pretended to care about Q3 projections. You're mentally exhausted, you are physically drained, your brain is begging for a break. And yet, what is the very first thing you do when you finally sit down? You don't stare at a blank wall, you don't go to sleep. You boot up a virtual PC, pick up a digital axe, walk into a pixelated office, and you go back to work. There is a strange, almost funny irony at the heart of the cozy gaming community. We call these games our sanctuary, we categorise them as wholesome or relaxing, but if you strip away the cute art styles and the chill soundtracks and you look purely at the verbs, what are we actually doing with our hands? It looks suspiciously like a second job. We are chopping wood, we are mining coal, we are scrubbing floors, we are organising inventory spreadsheets. Why? Why after a day of labour do we crave more labour? Today we are doing a deep dive into the rise of the job sim, we're going to look at the history of the genre, the psychology of the fake grind, and why a virtual checklist gives us a sense of control that real life refuses to provide. Grab a brew, this is going to be a long one. To understand the job sim, we have to go back to a time when the concept of relaxing gaming didn't really exist. The year is 1996. The gaming landscape is dominated by intensity. It's the era of Super Mario 64, Duke Nukem 3D, and Quake. Games are about high scores, fast reflexes, and saving the world. And in the middle of this adrenaline-fueled noise, a man named Yasuhiro Wada had a very different idea. Wada grew up in the Japanese countryside, and he wanted to capture that feeling. Not the feeling of being a hero, but the feeling of simply existing in a rural space. He created Harvest Moon, and looking back at it now, it is fascinating how stressful it actually was. In the original Harvest Moon, the job wasn't a metaphor. It was a simulation of survival. You had a stamina bar, if you worked too hard, your character would get exhausted, turn blue, and pass out. You woke up in the hospital having lost a day of work. The clock was always ticking, the seasons changed whether you were ready or not. If you didn't plant the right crops by the right date, you lost money, and if you lost enough money, you lost the farm. This is a crucial distinction. In the 90s, the job sim was about challenge, the satisfaction came from efficiency, it was a management puzzle. Can I water these 12 turnips before the sun goes down? It was satisfying, yes, but was it cozy? I'd argue not quite. It was work, hard work, but it laid the foundation for the most important psychological trick in gaming history, the loop. 5 years later, Nintendo took that foundation and did something radical. They removed the one thing that defines a real job, consequences. Animal Crossing launched on the GameCube and it baffled critics. There was no game over, there was no stamina bar, you couldn't lose. But more importantly, they introduced a villain we all love to hate, Tom Nook. People joke about Tom Nook being a capitalist tyrant, but mechanically he is the reason the cozy job sim exists. Think about his loan, pay me back whenever. 0% interest, no deadlines, no foreclosure. This changed the psychology of the player entirely. Suddenly the labour wasn't about keeping the lights on, it was about aspiration. We weren't fishing to survive, we were fishing because we wanted a bigger house. We were picking weeds because we wanted a prettier town. This shifted the genre from survival simulation to aesthetic management. The job became a hobby, the grind became a ritual. But there was still one piece missing: Animal Crossing runs in real time. If you play at 2 AM, the shop is closed, the game tells you, go to sleep. For a true job sim to work, the kind that lets us dissociate for 6 hours straight on a Saturday, we needed to break the clock. We needed to be able to work 20-hour days if we wanted to, and in 2016, a frantic usher at a movie theatre named Eric Barone decided to build that game himself. We all know the story of Stardew Valley, but in the context of job sims, Stardew did something brilliant. It brought back the gamified elements of Harvest Moon, the health bar, the dungeon combat, the deadlines, but kept the no-fail safety of Animal Crossing. If you miss a season in Stardew, you don't lose the game, you just wait until next year. This was the Goldilocks moment. It had enough friction to feel like work, you still have to water the crops, you still have to manage your energy, but enough safety to feel like a sanctuary. It perfected the formula, tangible effort equals guaranteed reward. And that formula is exactly what our brains are starving for in the modern economy. So we have the history, we went from the stressful survival of the 90s to the aesthetic vibes of the 2000s to the perfect hybrid we have today. But that doesn't answer the big question, why does our brain release dopamine when we organise a fake chest, but releases cortisol when we organise a real closet? To understand that, we have to talk about the loop. By the way, if you enjoy these deep dives into the mechanics of cozy gaming, not just what to play, but why we play them, consider subscribing to the channel. We are building the definitive guide to the cozy side of gaming, and I'd love to have you in the Tea Time crew for the next one. Let's stop talking about vibes for a second and look at the raw data. Let's look at the mechanics of a Tuesday morning in Fields of Mystria. You wake up at 6 AM, you step outside, you water 18 turnips, you check the mailbox, pet the cow, and put 3 eggs into the mayonnaise machine. It sounds mundane. If you described this to a non-gamer, they would ask you why you were doing chores on your day off. But look closely at what just happened to your brain in those 45 seconds. You completed 6 distinct tasks. And for every single one of those tasks, the world gave you immediate visual and auditory feedback. When you watered the crop, the soil turned dark. When you petted the cow, a heart icon appeared. When you sold the mayo, the gold counter ticked up. Ding. Now compare that loop to your real job. In the modern knowledge economy, labour is abstract. You sit in meetings about meetings, you send a project report into the void of the company server, and maybe, if you're lucky, your boss sends a thumbs up emoji 3 days later. There is a disconnect between your effort and the result. You can work hard all day and feel like you've accomplished absolutely nothing. But in the job sim, the ambiguity is gone. The list literally ticks itself off. The cause and effect are linked instantly. Input, press button, output, reward. This isn't just fun, it is a psychological balm. It tricks your brain into feeling competent, it validates your existence in a way that quarterly performance reviews never could. We don't play these games to work, we play them to feel productive. Actually, I want to pause the theory for a second and do a vibe check. I need you to be honest with me in the comments. How many of you have logged into a game like Minecraft, Terraria, or my time at Sandrock, not to progress the story, not to fight the boss, but just to organise your chests? You know exactly what I'm talking about. You spend 45 minutes sorting wood from stone, you colour code your armour, and build a dedicated shed just for late game materials. You aren't playing the game anymore, you're performing digital janitorial work, and it feels incredible. If you said yes to that, you aren't weird and you aren't boring, you are seeking what psychologists call agency. And this brings us to the second pillar of why job sims have taken over the world, the sanctuary. If you are team organised, if you're the person who colour codes your chests even though no one else sees them, do me a favour and hit that like button. It helps the algorithm find the other people who need a little digital order in their lives. The world outside your window is loud, it is chaotic. Politics, the housing market, social obligations, these are massive, unpredictable variables that you cannot control. You can do everything right in the real world and still lose, but a coffee shop in Coffee Talk, that is a closed system. You have the ingredients, you have the machine, you have the customer. If you put the right things in the cup, you get the right result, every single time. It is a universe that obeys rules, and for a brain that is overstimulated by the noise of modern life, that predictability isn't boring, it is healing. Take Dave the Diver. During the day, the ocean is dangerous, but at night, in the sushi bar, it is just management. It keeps the plate spinning. There is a specific meditative state known as flow. It's that feeling when the challenge perfectly matches your skill level and the rest of the world melts away. Job sims are designed to introduce this state instantly. It is the digital equivalent of popping bubble wrap. It allows us to exert agency over our environment in a way that renting an apartment or working in a cubicle rarely does. In the game, if there is a mess, you can clean it. If there is a problem, you can fix it. You are the master of your domain. I call this the effort versus reward ratio. Let me tell you a quick story. Last month, I spent about 4 days fixing a broken formula in a budget spreadsheet for a project. It was tedious, it was frustrating, and when I finally fixed it, silence. No confetti, no level up music, just the next task. The bar for real life reward stayed flat. Then I logged into Strange Horticulture, I identified 3 plants, I watered them, and the game treated me like a genius. I unlocked a new map location, the customer told me I saved their marriage, the music swelled. In a job sim, the effort is minimal, press A to chop tree, but the emotional payout is massive. We are starving for that feeling. We are starving for tangible proof that our time matters. And if the real economy won't give us that validation, we will pay $20 on Steam to get it from a pixelated raccoon. But it's not just about the mechanics, is it? If it was just about ticking boxes, we'd all be playing Excel. There is a reason we want to do these jobs in a beautiful world. And that brings us to the cozy part of the equation. If the job sim was only about completing tasks and ticking boxes, we would all be addicted to Microsoft Excel. And while I know for a fact some of you in the Tea Time crew are actually addicted to spreadsheets, looking at the EVE Online players here, for the rest of us, the cozy part is just as important as the job part. This is where the indie scene creates magic. We aren't just working, we are working inside a painting. Look at Tiny Glade. Mechanics-wise, you were just building walls, it's masonry work. But look at the lighting system. Look at how the ivy procedurally grows when you drag a fence. Look at the way the sheep wander into the frame. The job is masked by an aesthetic layer so charming that you forget you're essentially doing CAD design. Developers understand that atmosphere is a mechanic. Take Spiritfarer. The actual job description in this game is heavy. You are a ferryman for the dead. You are managing a boat, cooking food, weaving fabric, and farming crops to keep dying souls comfortable before they pass on. It should be depressing, it should be exhausting, but the hand-drawn animation, the soft orchestral score, the way the sunrise hits the deck, it turns a chore into a meditation. We often talk about immersion in gaming, usually when we're talking about ray tracing in Cyberpunk or realistic mud physics in Call of Duty, but I would argue that cozy job sims offer a deeper kind of immersion. They don't try to look real, they try to feel safe. When I play Strange Horticulture, I'm not just clicking on plants, I am listening to the rain hit the roof of my greenhouse, I am reading handwritten cursive notes, and I'm checking a tactile map. The sensory details, the sound design, the paper rustling effects, the colour palette trick my brain into believing that I am actually there. I am safe in that warm, dry shop, away from the noise of the world. This is the ASMR element of the genre. In a real job, the sensory experience is usually bad. Fluorescent lights humming, phones ringing, the AC blasting too cold. In a job sim, the sensory experience is curated for maximum comfort. The sound of chopping a tree in Animal Crossing isn't just a sound effect, it's a dopamine trigger. It's punchy, it's clean, and it satisfies the ear. If a game fails the sensory test, it fails as a job sim. If the menu is sluggish or the sound of the inventory opening is annoying, the spell breaks. Because we are only willing to do this fake work if the tools we are using feel premium. We want to feel like a master craftsperson, even if we are just crafting digital mayonnaise. But there is one final layer to the economy, and it answers the question, why build a farm if no one sees it? This extends beyond the game itself, it extends to us, the Tea Time crew, and the wider community. The community aspect of job sims is fascinating because it turns solitary labour into a shared exhibit. We don't just build the farm for ourselves, we build it to screenshot it, we build it to share it. Look at my layout, look at my cafe, look at how organised my library is. Suddenly, your virtual job has a real-world output. You are a curator, you're an artist, you are showing off your work to a boss that actually appreciates it, your peers. And speaking of curators, if you have a farm layout or a cafe design you're proud of, I want to see it. Jump into our Discord server, the link is in the description. We have a dedicated channel just for show and tell, and honestly, it's the most wholesome corner of the internet. Come and hang out with us. This is why games like Coral Island attempt to make the job sim multiplayer. Because if we are going to work, we might as well have co-workers we actually like. In the real world, your co-workers are assigned to you. In a cozy game, your co-workers are the people who share your vibe. So the aesthetic draws us in, the sound keeps us there, and the community validates the time we spent. It creates a positive feedback loop that the real economy simply cannot compete with. But I have to be the reviewer for a moment, because as much as I love this genre, there is a dark side. There is a moment where the cozy job stops being a sanctuary and starts feeling like unpaid labour. Let's talk about the grind. We have to be grounded here, because there is a very fine line between a relaxing ritual and a tedious waste of time. And honestly, a lot of games in this genre fail to walk that line. We have all played that one game, the art style is adorable, the trailer looked perfect, but then you play it and the movement speed is 20% too slow, the inventory only has 10 slots, you have to grind the same rock for 3 hours just to upgrade your axe once. When a developer mistakes slow for cozy, the illusion breaks immediately. We are willing to do the work if the work respects our time. If I'm watering crops, I want to feel like a farmer, I don't want to feel like I'm fighting a bad UI. When the controls are clunky or the progression is artificially throttled just to pad out the runtime, it stops feeling like self-care, and it starts feeling like, well, a job, a bad one, unpaid internship vibes. This is why we are so critical of quality of life features on this channel. You might think it's nitpicky to complain that a chest doesn't have an auto sort button, but in a job sim, the UI is the gameplay. If I have to manually drag and drop 30 pieces of wood every single night, that isn't gameplay. That is repetitive strain injury waiting to happen. A good job sim empowers you, a bad job sim exploits you. The best games in the genre understand that the ultimate fantasy isn't just doing the work, it is mastering the work. There is a specific arc to the job sim. Phase 1, you do everything by hand, you are the labourer. Phase 2, you upgrade your tools, you are the expert. Phase 3, you build systems, you are the manager. That moment when you craft your first iridium sprinkler in Stardew Valley, that is one of the best feelings in gaming. Not because you were lazy, but because you solved the problem. You put in the manual labour to earn the automation. It taps into that retired early fantasy. You look out over your fields watching the machines do the work you used to do and you think, I built this system, and it works. That feeling of competence, of building a machine that hums along without you, is the direct opposite of modern anxiety. In real life, if you stop pedaling, you fall off. In a good job sim, you build a bike that pedals itself. So where does that leave us? Why do we dream of labour? I think it's because in a world that feels increasingly out of our hands, where the economy is scary, the future is uncertain, and our real jobs often feel like we're just cogs in a machine, job sims gives us something precious. They give us a world where effort always equals reward, where kindness is the currency, where if you work hard you can actually afford a house, and where the worst thing that can happen is that you pass out at 2 AM and wake up in your bed with a slightly lighter wallet. These games allow us to practice being productive without the pressure. They let us feel useful, capable, so the next time someone asks you why you are working in a video game after working all day in real life, you tell them, I'm not working, I'm fixing, I'm organising, I'm healing. I'm curious, what is the one virtual job you would actually do for free in real life? Are you a farmer, a barista, a witch, or are you one of those PowerWash Simulator people who just wants to clean driveways forever? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, you might like my breakdown of why we're obsessed with inventory management games. Thank you so much for watching, and a massive thank you to our YouTube members. Your support allows me to take the time to write these scripts and keep the channel independent and honest. If you want to support the vision directly, click the join button below. I'm JT, this is JaeTeeGames, your guide to the cozy side of gaming. I'll see you in the next one.